Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome. My name is Maddie. Today, I'll be sharing with you the books that I read in November. November was a really good reading month, considering the fact that I was doing Nanowrimo while reading. I ended up reading 3 books in the month of November, which isn't a lot, but again, because I was writing at the same time, not only that, writing 50,000 words in a month, I think I did pretty good. When I thought I wasn't going to be able to read at all, at least I actually read more than like 1 book. I think it was a pretty good month. So with that said, let's just get into the books that I read in the month of November. First, I'm going to mention the 2 books that I did DNF. I didn't finish these books, but I do plan to continue them in the month of December. I just didn't finish them on time. So the first one is a reread, and that is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I wanted to reread this book because I forgot what happened in this book, and I have not read the sequels to it yet. The second and third book is now out, and I have not gotten to them. I've been putting them off, and now I feel like I have to restart this series. So that is what I'm doing. I'm currently listening to it on audiobook, so hopefully I will be able to finish it in the month of December, but I think I will. The second one is Oblivion by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I'm reading the 3rd story in this collection, which is Opal by the same author, told in another character's point of view. So this is the last story in this collection. I need to finish. I think about halfway through it, so I definitely should be able to finish it in December, and I'm really enjoying it. Now going into the books that I did actually read this month. The first book I read in November is Don't Look Back by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a thriller mystery book about a girl who wakes up but doesn't remember her life at all. So she has amnesia. It does follow the amnesia trope, which is a trope I actually do really like. She doesn't remember her parents or any of her friends, but she does get flashbacks to an event where her friend fell off a cliff and she was severely hurt. And so this book is following the mystery of who exactly pushed her friend off of this cliff. This book was really good. This is by my favorite author, so I had a feeling I was going to enjoy it, and I did. I felt the mystery aspect of it up until about halfway through the point, but I actually did predict who did this to her friend, and I was right, and I could not believe it, because when it comes to mystery book, I never predict what the mystery is ever. But there was a lot of foreshadowing in this book that I did pick up on, and I was able to guess correctly who did this. Because of that, it is kind of unfortunate, because when I go into a mystery book, I want to be wowed by the plot twist. But in this one, I wasn't, because I predicted what was going to happen. So I did knock this book down a star for being pretty predictable. However, I did still really enjoy it. I love the characters. I love the main character. And the romance in this book is also really good. It follows the friends to lovers trope, kind of enemies to lovers. They used to be friends, and then they became enemies. Also forgot to mention, this is a key point in this book, but the main character we follow was actually kind of a bitch before this happened to her, before she lost her memories. So a lot of people hate her, and she doesn't know why. But when she loses her memories, she becomes a completely different person, and she's like, why was I ever like that? Why would I be so mean? So it's kind of funny to think about how if you lose your memories, it can kind of change your perspective on the world, where this girl used to be terrible. She was a bully. Her and her best friend who got pushed off the cliff were so mean to people, but now she's like, why would I ever do that? And she feels so guilty. So seeing that change in her was also really interesting. Overall, really like this book. Would highly recommend it if you're looking for a mystery. Even though it is pretty predictable, I still really enjoyed it. The next book I read was a reread. It is the #1 book I talk about on this channel. And I was just like, I just want to reread this book because I was really hungry to reread it for the 3rd time. That is, I have it right here, The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read 2 JLA books this month, and I think I've read like 10 of her books this year. I'm so obsessed with her. I talk about her all the time. I won't talk much about this book since I talk about it so much, but if you don't know, this book is about these two characters who grew up in foster care together, but their foster parents were very abusive to them. So eventually they did get out of it, but they got separated when they were best friends. So fast forward 4 years later, the main character, Mallory, is going into high school when she used to be homeschooled. It's her senior year, and there she meets her best friend that she was in foster care with. So they start off their friendship again. It develops into the cutest romance ever. It's such a great book, and I can never recommend it enough. I'll probably reread this book time and time again. This is the second time I reread it this year. I just love it. I listened to it on audiobook, and the audiobook is really good. I would recommend it. Oh, and obviously gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I wish I could say the same for the next book, but sadly that is not the case. This book was really disappointing to me. That is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Oh, this one. I cannot tell you how many times I contemplated DNFing this book, but for some reason I just kept pushing through it, and the payoff of it still was not good. So going into the summary of this book takes place in a utopia, even though it's pretty much a dystopian, to me at least, where everyone in this world is healthy, no one dies. However, because there needs to be a population control, there are these people called scythes who carry the responsibility of gleaning, which means killing someone, and their killings are random. No one knows if they're actually going to die. No one knows who's going to get killed. These scythes just kill at random, which actually really does not make a lot of sense to me. Like, why would you just kill random people? Shouldn't there be a system that tells you, like, oh, kill the people who are doing bad, who are like criminals? But they just kill at random. A lot of things in this book really did not make any sense to me. So going in with my issues with this book, the characters were just really boring. I did not care for their stories. I think my favorite character out of all the characters in this book was Rowan, who is one of the main characters. He was kind of interesting. I did not care for the other main character, which is, I don't even remember her name, but I didn't really care for her all that much. She was actually kind of annoying. And I felt like the plot of this was just all over the place, and it dragged so much. And it was also really repetitive. There are so many scenes where the scythes are just killing, which I know that is the main point of this book, but I felt like the killings were all the same. They were all the same circumstances. There was just nothing different about them. It felt like throughout this whole book, we're just seeing the same scenes over and over and over again. And a lot of things in this book were not logical. I know this is a fantasy book, but at the beginning of the book, the rules for this world would be set, and then the characters would contradict those rules. So a lot of the things in this book were not consistent and just didn't make any sense to me. I did give this one a 2 out of 5 stars. I gave it a 2 just because of the fact that I was able to push through it, and that there was one character who was Rowan that I actually did really like, but there were so many problems I had with this book, and it's really unfortunate because this is such a hyped up book that I thought I was going to love because it sounded really good. It sounded like something I would enjoy, but I just didn't, and I was really sad because so many people love this book, but I did not. And pretty straightforward, I won't be continuing on with this series because I'm just not interested anymore because this one really let me down. So those were the 3 books that I read in November. Now let's just get into the statistics for this month. Starting with the amount of pages that I read a total of 1,278 pages. As for the release years, 1 was released in 2014 and 2 were released in 2016. For genres, I read 1 thriller, 1 contemporary romance, and 1 science fiction. As for the genders of the authors that wrote the books, I read 2 books that were by female authors and 1 was by a male author. All the books I read this month were novels. I read 1 ebook, listened to 1 audiobook, and read 1 physical book. So Kind of funny how that worked out. Each book that I read in November was in a different format. 2 of the books I read were standalones, and 1 was a part of a series that I will not be continuing. For demographic, they were all young adult books. 1 of them was a reread. For their settings, 2 took place in the US. I can't remember where exactly they took place, but I know they took place in the United States, and 1 of them took place in a fantasy version of the United States. At least I think it did, because the world in Scythe is called Mid-America. I'm just assuming that's a play-on word of America. I don't know. I'm just assuming. All the books I read this month were by authors who I had read their previous books before. As for ratings, I rated 1 book a 4-star, 1 a 5-star, and 1 a 2-star. Going into the readathons that I did this month, I participated in 1 readathon. There were a lot of readathons going on in November, but with Nanowrimo, I could only kind of participate in 1, and even then, I did not do very good during this readathon. That is the Lala-thon. I read 1 book for that, which was Don't Look Back. Oh man, this number makes me cringe. Out of the 12 books that were on my original TBR for November, what was I thinking putting 12 books on my TBR when I was doing NaNoWriMo? I don't even know. I was insane. I only read 1 of them. Really, I just should probably stop making TBR videos because I never stick to them, but TBR videos are just so fun to do. I'm still going to make them. Just know that take them with a grain of salt, because usually I do not read all the books on my TBRs. I really need to work on that. So that is it for my November wrap-up. Let me know in the comments what books you guys read in November. What were your favorites? I would love to know. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish-related videos. And also be sure to follow me on social media. My Twitter is linked in the description box. I post every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and I'll be back really soon. Bye!